The conference room of the Minister of Development in charge of the coordination of government action has been hosting a bilateral meeting between Niger and Benin since Tuesday, 16th of May. The Minister of Secondary Technical Education and Vocational Training, Yves Kwaro Chabi, received in his office on Monday, May 15, 2023, the 4 students representing Benin at the 30th edition of the Pan-African Mathematics Olympiad. A meeting held between the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research and the private higher education institutions, which resulted in several resolutions. Good morning. Listening to Golfe TV Africa. Welcome to this edition, the news in details. On the national scene, the conference room of the Minister of Development in charge of the coordination of government action has been hosting a bilateral meeting between Niger and Benin since Tuesday, 16th of May. This meeting aims to improve coordination in the fight against cross-border human trafficking. More details in the report.
For several years, human trafficking and smuggling of migrants have become a growing concern in the region. West and Central Africa is the zone of transit and destination for victims of trafficking and small goods migrants. To improve coordination in the fight against cross-border human trafficking, Benin and Niger join hands through a bilateral meeting.
L'objectif général est donc de dresser un état des lieux de la coopération transfrontalière bénino-nigérienne en matière de lutte contre la traite des personnes et d'envisager les voies et moyens de la renforcer.
The general objective is to address the state of the cross-border cooperation of Benin and Niger and the fight against human trafficking, and in addressing the ways and means of combating it. This meeting is part of the implementation of Component 3 of the Crime Project, organized for West Africa's response to trafficking, financed by the European Union. Ladies and gentlemen, during the course of 3 days' work, we will proceed to share our experience between the two countries, Benin and Niger, in the fight against human trafficking. The director of the National Agency for the Fight Against Human Trafficking in Niger says he is satisfied to be in Cotonou to take part in this meeting. He recalls the position of Niger in dealing with this scourge.
Personne est une violation des droits de l'homme qui touche presque tous les États du monde.
Human trafficking is a human rights violation that affects every state in the world. The victims of heinous crimes, most often women and children, are being deprived of their normal lives, their freedom, their dignity, and forced to provide various work and services for direct benefit. The geographical position of Niger with North African countries constitutes an excellent transit system and also destination for all migrants leaving the region, particularly the Republic of Benin. Ladies and gentlemen, the government of Niger, like other countries in the world, is committed to fighting human trafficking in all its forms. This bilateral meeting between Niger and Benin benefits from the technical and financial support of the European Union. Alastair Alinsatu, Director of Cabinet of the Minister of Development in charge of the coordination of government action, launched the proceedings of this bilateral meeting. The profit generated by human trafficking worldwide is estimated at $32 billion, and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime estimates that smugglers generate profits of up to $150 million per year for smuggling West African migrants into Europe. Migration is an important phenomenon in West and Central Africa, and its management poses real challenges for governments and regional institutions.
A heartfelt session between the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research and the private higher education institutions. The meeting, which resulted in several resolutions, brought together executives and actors from the academic world. More details in this report.
An exchange with key stakeholders of private higher educational institutions on the problem that undermine the sector in order to provide adequate solutions. This was the aim of the meeting, which permitted the government to take stock of several dysfunctioning units in the sector. For the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research, it is an urgent need to put an end to these dysfunctional irregularities observed, she maintained. The founder of a private higher educational institution satisfied with the meeting gave kudos for the initiative behind the meeting. The opening of the English-speaking courses of study without authorization remains one of the concerns addressed during the meeting and needs and ways to solve this problem.
The Minister of Secondary Technical Education and Vocational Training, Eve Kwaro-Shabi, received in his office on Monday, May 15, 2023, the 4 students representing Benin at the 30th edition of the Pan-African Mathematics Olympiad held in Kigali, Rwanda. It was a very simple ceremony at the end of which the national flag was symbolically given to them to defend the country's colors in this competition.
There are 4 students of the first Series C who will represent Benin at the 30th edition of the Pan-African Mathematics Olympiad, scheduled to take place from the 13th to the 22nd of May 2023 in Kigali, Rwanda. The 4 ambassadors who will defend the colors of Benin during this competition were received in a heroic fashion on Monday. They had words of encouragement from the minister, Eve Kwaro-Shabi, before their departure for Kigali. The authorities reiterated to the 4 ambassadors the support of the government and the entire Beninese people by reassuring the 4 ambassadors of the arrangement that has been made for their trip and stay in very amiable conditions. The representatives of the parents and the spokesperson for the candidates thanked the government for its support and reassured them that it would not be undermined. The Pan-African Mathematical Olympiad competition is a scientific competition open to secondary school students under the age of 20.
In Benin, weapons were found in the belongings of students at the University of Abomey-Calavi on Friday, 12 May 2023, during an operation to evict students from the BIDB building. This eviction operation wasn't welcomed by the students.
The day after the commemoration of 11th May 2023, a date dedicated to the memory of Bob Marley, the Open University and Social Work Center Abomey-Calavi launched an operation to evict students from the BIDB building at the University of Abomey-Calavi.
Cette situation-là, que je suis sûr vous avez déjà filmé.
I am sure that this situation has already been recorded and it has already been viewed, that the luggages of the students has been thrown out and also the student has been asked to move out, according to the authorities. I know no students illegally lodge in the building and the students assault their fellow students, disturbing the quiet and the peace of their fellow students. I believe that as an authority, there's an automaton Sankara situation that I used to brandish everywhere. As an authority, you have to be at the high level, which allows you to see very far. But as a leader, you have to be on alert at all times to know what is going on. Yes, the authorities has to know what is going on. But what is the suitable action that has been taken not to create another problem? I am here, just like you, to see that my fellow students has been asked to leave. Their doors broken. They were not brutalized. They were not violated. But where will my fellow students stay? As leaders, did they bother to find even a shelter for them? I would like that a census be carried out to know the students and non-students in this building. That has not been done before. An uncompleted residency inhabited by a group of students. On the campus, they denounced the action carried out by the officers of the police station of Abomey-Calavi on the instruction of the rector. It should be noted that during the eviction operation, weapons were found in the belongings of the resident students.
The primary school educational system in Francophone Africa is similar to what is obtainable in France. This commentary gives a deeper outlook into the primary educational system in Benin.
The educational system in Francophone Africa is similar to the educational system of France. Unlike the Anglophone educational system that moves from kindergarten to pre-nursery to nursery school in some educational institutions, in Francophone Africa, the first class a child is admitted into is called maternelle, known as nursery school in Anglophone countries. The children in maternelle are between the ages of 2 to 4 years old. From maternelle, the children graduate into primary school. In Benin Republic and other Francophone countries, primary school is compulsory for a period of 6 years. At the end of the 6 years, they write an examination called CEP, meaning Certification of Primary Education, and they get a certificate called Primary School Certificate. In French, it is Certificat d'études premières. In Anglophone countries, this certificate is called School Leaving Certificate. The minimum age required of a pupil to qualify for the Certificate of Primary Education, CEP, is 9 years, and unlike some Anglophone countries that students can write examinations in an earlier class, in Benin Republic, this is not obtainable. A child must follow the due process and write the exam in the 6th grade. The primary school system commences with CI, known as Primary 1, CP, known as Primary 2, CI1, known as Primary 3, CI2, known as Primary 4, CM1, known as Primary 5, and CM2, known as Primary 6. The pupil has to get to CM2, equivalent to Primary 6, before he qualifies to write the CEP examination. When the student succeeds, he moves into secondary school. In Benin Republic, students cannot be double promoted. They must finish the 6 years in primary school. The Certificate of Primary Education examination is over 20 and the cutoff mark is 10. The examination is held in the month of June every year. The CEP examination happens simultaneously in all the parts of Benin Republic in different examination centers. If a pupil fails the examination, the pupil has to retake the examination and repeat the class.
Southern African country Mozambique is battling one of its worst cholera outbreaks in more than 20 years. In the aftermath of Cyclone Freddy, which first made landfall in late February, the number of cases grew exponentially to over 27,000 across the country's 11 provinces. Cholera is a diarrheal disease that is usually spread through contaminated water and is especially dangerous to pregnant women.
Cidália João gave birth just days after Cyclone Freddy made landfall in Mozambique. Cidália's home village in Quilimane barely recovered from the storm when cholera took hold.
Cholera has killed many in this village. We would like the government to help us. We lack clean water and many things. Cholera killed many, and the cyclone damaged many things. Many people lost everything they had.
The country was in the midst of a cholera outbreak which exploded after Freddy hit. Crumbling water infrastructure was wiped out and swept into rivers, along with raw sewage from poor sanitation.
Quilimane is a low-lying city. It's a swamp, so the water tables are very high. So, and sewage and water were all mixed, so that also brought a challenge in terms of trying to combat cholera, and people were fetching water from these contaminated water sources.
Many hospitals and clinics were also damaged, making it difficult to treat the sick. This emergency response hospital set up by the World Health Organization, Doctors Without Borders, and the United Nations was treating over 400 fresh cases a day. But things are now under control.
The bed was not enough, because the number was very, very, very high. This is a case of success. We have below 20 cases in last two weeks. It means in 1 month from the out control of cholera outbreak, it became under control. It's not easy. I was working more than 18 hours per day.
Mass vaccination drives and community outreach programs have played a part in stemming new infections.
We see a theater performance made by Group Teatros Retratistas, which is one of our partners here in Kilimani. It's not only to bring the vaccines, but also work with the community through different community platforms to create awareness and create demand for the vaccination.
Elsewhere in Mozambique, it still remains bleak as healthcare workers battle the worst outbreak in 20 years. More investment is needed to improve water and sanitation systems to rid the country of cholera entirely. Until then, millions of Mozambicans remain at risk when the rains return. Julie Shar, CGTN, Kilimani, Zambezi Province, Mozambique.
Ghana's largest opposition party has chosen the country's former president John Dramani Mahama as its flag bearer for the 2024 presidential election. Delegates of the National Democratic Congress (NDC) voted in primaries over the weekend to choose a candidate for both the presidential and the parliamentary polls. More details in the report.
Ghana's former president, John Mahama, casting his vote in his party's election primaries on Saturday. And the country's largest opposition party, the National Democratic Congress, has overwhelmingly chosen him as its flag bearer for the 2024 presidential election.
So flag bearer is moving to take for... I believe that if NDC can power, most of the things which Ghanaians we want, NDC can come and do it for us. For instance, taking care of our children, taking care of the other side, give us a promise, which we look at it with that they're able not to do those promises. So I know that if NDC can power, by all means, they will turn to us, they'll look those promises back and say they'll do it for us.
Mahama was tipped by most political analysts to win the primary, based on his experience and influence in the opposition party. They say he's likely to capitalize on the economic crisis facing the country in his presidential campaign.
I believe in John Dramani Mahama. He has been a president before, he has been a vice president before, and he's a communicator too. So there is no way the sitting president can do something for us. We've given him 8 years now, and there's nothing we are seeing now. But with John Dramani Mahama, he can turn things around for us. And that's why we believe in him. That's why we are here to vote for him.
The primaries come as Ghana holds talks with the International Monetary Fund over a $3 billion bailout to help it overcome the economic crisis, and as it faces a growing jihadist threat from neighboring Burkina Faso.
Cyclone Mocha has lashed the coast of Bangladesh and Myanmar, killing at least 3 people. Refugee camps in Bangladesh, Cox's Bazar, home to more than 1 million Rohingya, escaped the direct heat after the cyclone path veered eastward. More details in the report.
Barreling into Bangladesh's southernmost town of Teknaf with 195 km/h winds, Cyclone Mocha made landfall. The most powerful storm to hit the Bay of Bengal in more than a decade, it tore roofs from homes, felled power lines, and toppled trees. Authorities had urged hundreds of thousands of people in Bangladesh and across the border in Myanmar to seek shelter ahead of its arrival. Here in Teknaf, they hunkered down in a local school. But after the cyclone's passing, many left safety only to find little to return to.
Thanks to Allah, because we worried the cyclone would be very big, but it had less impact. This could have been worse. Even so, many houses got damaged. People have no money and nothing to eat. Many of our belongings got damaged. I run a shop here. The shop has been blown away by the storm. I have a betel nut garden, but it has also been destroyed. I've seen the cyclones of 1991 and 1994, but today's was more dangerous.
Further north in the Rohingya refugee camps, home to more than 1 million people, no casualties were reported after the storm veered from its predicted path. But the heavy winds tore down over 1,000 bamboo shelters. Across the border in Myanmar, the cyclone brought more damage, with several deaths reported by authorities. With the storm moving further inland, locals are taking stock of the damage left behind.
I was very scared as I never experienced this before. I never witnessed such a strong wind in my 51 years. This is my very first experience with something like this. There were storms previously, but not as strong as this one.
Unfortunately for Myanmar and Bangladesh, both low-lying countries and home to some of the world's poorest people, experts say that climate change is likely to make cyclones only more powerful.
To end this news edition, here's a recap of our top stories. The conference room of the Minister of Development in charge of the coordination of government action has been hosting a bilateral meeting between Niger and Benin since Tuesday, 16th of May. The Minister of Secondary Technical Education and Vocational Training, Yves Kwaro Shabi, received in his office on Monday, May 15, 2023, the 4 students representing Benin at the 30th edition of the Pan-African Mathematics Olympiad. A meeting held between the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research and the private higher education institutions, which resulted in several resolutions. Here will conclude today's news edition, coming to you live from Golfe TV Africa. I am ITUNU SHONEYE. Enjoy the rest of your day.